All right, team, you can get started now.
All right, everyone. Do we have, okay, so we've got, I think a few people are trickling in. We will just get started. I think by the time we get to the meat of this, we'll have more people in. But just to start off, my name is Omar Amjad. I am with CDW as a cloud solutions architect. I typically focus on all things Azure infrastructure, Azure VMware, and then Azure AI stack itself. And I'm going to turn over to my counterparts over here, Joao or Srini.
For sure. Do you want to move to the next slide? We can see our beautiful faces.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
All right.
There you go.
There you go. I mean, we're all on camera anyways, but in case you want to connect the dots, thanks, Omar. Hey, everyone, my name is Joao Costa. I'm with the Microsoft Canada team in our partner side. So I'm a partner specialist working on Azure, very closely with CDW as a prioritized partner in Canada. So that ranges from infrastructure to data, and for this call, AVS in particular. Srini, over to you. You're on mute.
Yeah. Hello, all. This is Srinivas Gowda. I'm a cloud solution architect from Microsoft. Today, I'm partnering with Omar and Joa to deliver in our AVS solution play. I'm specialized in all type of migrations from on-prem, from AWS or GCP to Azure migrations.
So,
Yep.
yeah, and thanks there. So for the agenda, we're going to keep it fairly distributed between the opportunity at hand, why VMware and Azure, and then we're going to get into some technical Q&A. There could be about CDW program, the solution itself, or it could be about VMware. So we'll be happy to take your questions as we go along. So let's get right into it. Yeah. So if you look back at earlier last year, one of the most eventful things for VMware users was VMware as a company got acquired by Broadcom. As a result of that, the concerns that really come from there is they changed the perpetual licensing model on how they license their software, either via OEM or outside license model from perpetual to subscription-based pricing. And according to some reports, actually Forrester did a report on this, depending on where you are in the year and how many licenses do you have per core, the price difference could be anywhere 400% to 700%. So that's a huge price difference, especially for the same service customers have been using for a while. So that's been a sort of front and center concern. We see a lot of our customers that are looking to find a robust, cost-effective disaster recovery solution for their native VMware environment. And that's another one of the reasons I think this is a very important conversation we're going to have today. So let's peel back what is Azure VMware Solution, right? So essentially, AVS or Azure VMware Solution is the fastest path for customers to move their on-premise VMware deployments to cloud, or Azure Cloud in this case, without having to refactor on the application layer, operating system layer, or the hypervisor layer. So it's actually a native forklift over to the cloud environment. So this gives you the opportunity to leave everything intact, be it for a migration or a data center cutoff. You can actually take your existing Microsoft licenses and your VMware components and move them to the cloud. And once you're in the cloud, what does that get you? You now have the scale of the cloud. You're able to provision VMware quite quickly across all of the Azure global regions. Being able to leverage the existing investments on the employee side, where there's a lot of knowledge and know-how, or being on the licensing side, just leveraging that on Azure makes it very easy to transition. And then also, you get to tie it right into your existing Azure environment. So imagine you have Azure deployments that have multiple Azure services like AD. You may be using analytics or AI. All that gets brought really close to your VMware workloads by opting in. So, and we'll talk a little bit about the database because I think that's a fantastic story. But moving along, think of this as VMware Cloud Foundation in Azure, where it mirrors what you have on premise, all the same things customers are used to, be it vSphere, vSAN, NSX, all the native VMware tools are brought over. And I talked about the scalability. So we'll get into how the service actually looks like, and underneath the covers, what does the bare metal also looks like, but really the ability to scale at a cloud pace. And Srini, I'll just, sorry to put you in the spot. I don't want to quote the time it takes to actually onboard expansion to your AVS deployment, but it's actually not a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, hardly like 1 or 2 hours, you're ready to go. Basically, you can extend your on-prem cluster to your, private cloud. Basically, Amar.
Yeah, that's actually, if you compare it to what it would take for an on-premise deployment, it's about choosing the hardware, ordering the hardware,
Yep.
taking the skids, racking it, stacking it, cabling it, and then we have exactly the same scale available in about an hour or 2 time. So huge advantage over there. Any questions around? I know we've covered a bit of ground here, so I'll just take a pause. Good. Okay, so we're doing good. So this is the topology of the service. On the left hand, you see the customer's on-premise environment. And on the right hand, we're depicting what a Azure subscription within an Azure region will look like for a customer. So you see in this case, the 2 environments are actually stitched together using Azure Express Route, which is a point-to-point connectivity that customers and Microsoft and ourselves get together to arrange through ISPs. We also have the option to do this over VPN, especially it's a full migration with potentially not a lot of chatter back home to the on-premise environment. That could also work over VPN, but primarily what I want to depict here is that all of a sudden, as you tie your on-premise to your on-premise VMware environment to the VMware environment in Azure, you're very near line to all the Azure native services right now. And in fact, it doesn't show over here, but these 2 environments, the Azure native services on the rightmost box and the subscription, they actually are connected on Azure Backbone. So this is, and there's no cost associated to sort of having this traffic go between your subscription and Azure services. So these are, nearline, high bandwidth access to all of these amazing Azure services like AI or database services we're going to talk a little bit about. So it really just opens up the gate for all these other services once you bring it over. I want to make sure that we cover the salient point. But the next one here is probably my favorite slide here. So if you really think about what makes up the responsibilities of customers that are running VMware on premise, this is really all the way up to from the hardware, networking, the data center, to the actual management of the operating system and application and so on and so forth. So that's really what makes up for the time and effort our customers sink into running productive, efficient, high SLA VMware environments. And on the right side, you see is how, based off of how easy it is to actually set up an AVS environment. The AVS Microsoft first party service is very similar, where now Microsoft is taking care of all the sort of fundamentals of the database, the data center, the real estate, cooling, power, networking, storage, all that good stuff, all the way up to the hypervisor where our customers come in and all they're doing is loading their operating system application. So it's really having the control that you need and not the control that actually will add to more complexity on your end. So really, if you are currently running in your Azure environments, your day-to-day engagement would be with either the workloads that are running on the VMware, or if you're an admin, it would be with vSphere. So very similar experience will carry on for customers once they move over to Azure VMware Solution. Really quickly, so the Azure AVS Solution is sold in 2 different SKUs. So each SKU makes up a bare metal machine that has its own compute, onboard storage, and RAM. Typically, a minimum 3-node requirement node deployment would be recommended just for SLAs and being able to fail over in case of a failure. So that's how you get the 99-point SLA. So it can take you can have an outage at any one point. Mind you, let's not forget that these bare metal boxes are actually hosted in very highly resilient Azure geolocations that have very high standards of resiliency once it comes down to power, cooling, failover, networking, all that good stuff. So naturally, it's a very a single Azure geo is a very highly resilient location, and then you add to the fact that there's multiple different deployment involved. You can imagine how difficult would it be to match this type of SLA within your confines of your own data centers. I'm going to take a pause, see if there's any questions around here in the room.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, just want to
Sure.
reiterate, Umar. So as a customer, they don't have to worry about anything. They can just bring the workloads and they can run the applications, right? This is the scenario we're talking about, right? As for on-prem goes, you're responsible for hardware, Broadcom licensing, your on-prem VMware staff, your applications, right? Networking, storage, capacity, everything you're responsible for.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yep.
So I think we've covered most of this. We talked about how performance is, you get a performance boost by being able to stack more and more bare metal machines right next to each other. We talked about the resiliency of the platform, Azure platform itself, and the hyperscaler that your VMware service relies on. I think the idea of bringing your Active Directory, all the other ancillary services under one roof is absolutely a prime goal of bringing your VMware workloads into the cloud. And it's very interesting for our customers when they start looking at the ability to expand and make your databases more feature rich. So for customers that are, and it's not a very well-known fact that customers that are running Oracle today, or even Oracle in rack format, team over here at CDW and Microsoft, we have the ability to integrate those databases alongside your VMware Azure VMware solution. Now, for the folks that use Oracle rack, we understand it's as you know, it's a fairly Oracle-specific technology, very hard to match outside of the Oracle cloud world. So having an Oracle certified solution in the cloud with your VMware environment, it's definitely a plus. It goes without saying there is no better place to run your SQL databases than in Azure, and the reason for that is how many different iteration Azure presents for SQL databases, be it on large hyper-threading model or individual managed instances or scalable options, pay-as-you-go options. All these options available with the option to still port in your licenses that you have on premise. So bringing your databases to Azure, especially Azure SQL, opens a bunch of different options, making it that much more resilient for you to run these. Any questions before I move on? Good.
Hey, Omar,
okay, so
Kelly
this is a bit
here,
of an eye chart, but I'll try to simplify this. So really, why?
Omar, I think you got a question from Kelly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, guys. My voice is still not what it normally is. I was just thinking about this just from like a seller's standpoint. I'm on my phone, so I don't know. Is there sales folks on this call right now?
But mostly customers.
Do we know? Okay. Okay, cool. So just from like one of the things you said earlier, I just want to kind of make sure I understand it. But from an AVS standpoint, when you're talking about speaking to customers, you mentioned highlighting cost savings, scalability, I think reduced management overhead and Azure integration. But there's one thing that you said that was interesting, and I just want to make sure I understand it. So when you talk about lift and shift, did you say that you don't have to do refactoring or re-architecting? Did I hear that right?
Yes, you did. Yes, it's essentially
Okay.
a lift and shift of your existing VMware VMDKs over.
Okay, cool. So from a customer impact standpoint, then you've got, like, you reduce your CapEx, your OpEx, and then you've got really flexible pricing. My understanding, for you only pay for what you use. Is that correct as well?
Yes, and I see Srini, you nodding your head too. Did you want to say?
Yeah, the way I understand,
Okay,
Kelly,
cool.
I assume you have on-prem VMware infrastructure today, right? You can just spin up AVS, establish connection, then you can run workloads on-prem as well as AVS till to the point where you make up your mind, you know what, this is the time I need to close my data center, for example, right? It's just a matter of moving all the workloads through vMotion or HCX, which comes with part of AVS, free, no license need to be purchased. And move all the workloads, and you can disable that vMotion connectivity. That's it. You don't see the downtime. You don't see your workloads or application has to be re-architected or redesigned because the underlying hypervisor is same. You are running everything just like on-prem, but it's in your private cloud, right? Dedicated hardware, same hypervisor, everything is vSAN, like local, low performance, high performance, low latency, local storage, right? Everything is attached to your AVS nodes, like a vSAN. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one last thing, I just want to reiterate this because I think I heard this already, but from a ideal scenario from a customer standpoint, if you're exiting your data center, or you're doing a hardware refresh, or you're looking at DR without a second site, or you are looking at trying to reduce or struggling with cloud migration, like the complexity of it. And then any enterprise looking for a hybrid cloud model with Azure, that would be a good fit. That's what I heard as well too. Is that correct?
Yeah,
okay,
beautiful
cool.
scenarios. Imagine you want to expand, or you want to increase your capacity, and you have to run into your CapEx challenges, right? With AVS, you just use and pay, just like any other cloud resource, pay as you go, or your RI plans. You can spin up and spin down your AVS infrastructure as needed. As Omar pointed out, you just have to start with 3 minimum nodes, and you can go up to 16 or 32 or 64 as you need capacity. Your business grows, then you can scale down if you think you need less workloads to support your business, right? It's a very dynamic kind of, just like a cloud service, right? Pay as you go, spin up, spin down, use the capacity when you need. If you don't need, you can spin it down.
Okay, great. Yeah, that cost management and the governance piece is really important.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks for answering my questions and clarifying. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, great question there, Kelly. That helps to add clarity here. And speaking of price and the cost part of this, I think this is a very important slide. This really speaks to the opportunity that we have right now. I think it's important to understand, based off of all the changes that we've seen on the VMware licensing side, Microsoft has really stepped up with their Azure offering. So depending on the commitment between 1 to 5 years, you can expect anywhere from 20 to 43% off, 60% off. Take that back, 60% off of the overall cost of the solution. And as we talked about, AVS solution is not just compute or licensing, it's actually the combination of compute, licensing, and support. So all those three things are included as one SKU. And that SKU could be licensed depending on the number of years of commitment, anywhere from 20 to 60%. Now, we have also done this comparison in-house for our customers, for ourselves. I know Forrester has done this. The cost comparison of doing this on-premise with the cost of licensing, hardware and all the ancillary thing, you can expect a saving anywhere from 400 to 700%. I know it sounds crazy, but it's in hundreds of percent, the comparison between what you could get in discounts depending on the number of years you commit to. And we know a lot of our customers are outside of their window of security patches on the Windows and the SQL side. So if you're in 2012 SQL or 14, you're definitely outside of receiving those security patches and updates. So automatically, as you bring those workloads over to Azure by way of your AVS solution, all of those gets free extended security updates on top of that. So that gives you enough breathing room if you want to test and upgrade your applications to the latest OS and databases. So that gives you that room. You still have air cover with security patches. The hybrid benefits piece speaks to the fact that if you've already licensed Windows and SQL on premise or anywhere else, you don't need to continually license those when you start using AVS. So those licenses actually reflect the same way without adding to additional cost. And I kind of saved the best one for the last, which is at this very moment, Microsoft is with partnership with CDW under the Azure Migrate and Modernize program. We are actually working with Microsoft to take funding up to $120,000 to do the migration and deploy the AVS solution for our customer in production and POC formats. So that's a current offer that our customers can take advantage of. Being able to receive a turnkey solution, not having to go through the learning curve, and having CDW kind of walk you through. You can be looking over our shoulders as we deploy this. So the value of Azure VMware Solution stands really tall and differently from all their offerings right now. And I think the time is fantastic given all these things that are including with the ability for CDW to actually deliver this. So I'll pause for a second. I know this is a busy slide.
Yeah. One other point to highlight, Omar, on this slide. So Microsoft also has a lot of investments in this area where, customer hire CDW to migrate. We also have Microsoft staff coming in and joining, CDW to help with these migrations, right? We have something called Cloud Migration Factory. That's a kind of complement from Microsoft, comes free of cost for customers, basically. And if customers has licenses, we are happy for them. They can bring it over. They get additional, I guess, 17-20% discount as well on their AVS cost. And we are extending our 5-year RI plan. Basically, whatever the 3-year RI cost, you can extend up to 5 years. No changes, right? No surprises. If Broadcom changes their license cost, if hardware cost goes up, if AC and cooling power price goes up, you don't see any price difference for 5 years. Wanted to kind of, clarify that piece. So
that's a huge point, right? This is top of mind for a lot of the decision makers in the business where, you kind of see this happen once. It makes everybody nervous. Is it going to continually keep going up the licensing cost? How do we predict our costs the right way? So absolutely, if you want to have a predictable line of sight to your VMware deployments for the next 4 or 5 years, this is absolutely the right way to do this on one of the best hyperscalers out there.
Last piece I'll add too, because you also covered towards the end. A lot of these programs and offers available through the Microsoft CDW partnership are ones I'll cover towards the end. So feel free to keep any questions for then as you learn more about what it entails.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Joe. Really quickly on this slide, this is if you have gone ahead and already purchased the VCF bundle from VMware directly, how is it different? So once again, we talked about there will be no difference in the support. Microsoft manages the support for all VMware related issues as well. So if you were an AVS customer, you only have one place to open that support ticket. Microsoft will, at the back end in their NOC, they will manage any sort of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 support calls between VMware and themselves. So it's great to have the single vantage point. And in some cases, it's better because your operating system, database, and hypervisor are kind of being managed by a single entity. I'm not going to comment on the pricing differences because I'm not up to date, but absolutely, if you have already subscribed to the VCF bundle, there is a flexibility to run this in Azure as well without having to renew your subscription as it stands today. So lots of flexibility to port your licensing back and forth. Yeah, I think this talks to, we kind of alluded to how being in Azure locations opens up all these options to tie into some cognitive services or building out generative AI solutions within your environment. I think that's an important part that to bring again. But what the conversations that I'm having quite frequently now with our customers is when they talk about what to do with VMware next. I think it's important to talk about how Azure still stands as the best next step. So let's say if you are contemplating decomming or moving off away from VMware, once again the lift and shift tooling with CDW and the native tooling that Azure has to move away from VMware while you move into the cloud is also possible. So what I'm alluding to is these conversion tools. So the Azure Migrate is actually a fantastic tool that allow you to do some of these migrations natively. And there's obviously CDW services that can help you move across. So this option kind of eliminates the hypervisor discussion, but we've covered why customers don't want to eliminate VMware right now. There's plenty of reasons. Customers just don't want to have this disruptive decision made based off of licensing changes because they're just not ready. They haven't tested outside of VMware yet. There's a skill and familiarity issue in customer environments. You know, if you're running a VMware shop for a while, chances are most of the people most of the skill set that you carry on your bench is folks that know how to use VMware. So for those reasons as well, once again, Azure is a great destination, and in the Azure VMware solution format is essentially the fastest path. And then we've also seen customers decom their VDI solutions and use VMware as the Azure VMware solution for that. So you're kind of consolidating at the same time you're moving into Azure. So there's really lots of different ways you can think about your journey with VMware with your team at CDW and Microsoft. So good thing to mention. I'll summarize by saying VMware to Hyper-V, VMware to Azure migration is enabled, and then also VMware to VMware migration is enabled and made very easy on Azure. Yeah, so this actually kind of talks about the same thing. So it's a long slide. I alluded to the fact the cost savings, the economies of scales with the discounts that we are seeing right now, and the option to have your migration be funded through CDW and Microsoft partnership. I think these figures of 6 months payout and a 400% TCO savings could actually be bettered. So one thing, if you're going to do a side-by-side comparison, which we can absolutely help you do that as a part of our assessment service. And I know, Joe, I don't want to steal your thunder. I know it's coming up, but it'll become easy. The story will become even more clear in how we're standing at a precipice of something very unique, taking Azure and the AVS option, Azure VMware option opens you up to not all these features, but also the cost benefits. And now I will pass it over to my dear friend Joao over here.
Awesome. Thanks, Omar. Yeah, I'd like to take a minute to, I guess, overall address the significant Microsoft and CDW partnership, and also what that means for you when you think about your broader IT and business needs, as well as AVS more specifically as well in the next slide. So CDW, for context, is one of the very select group of partners for Microsoft worldwide that holds what is called the Azure Expert MSP designation. So essentially it means they've consistently demonstrated the top tier skills, services capabilities, and then customer satisfaction that's graded on a global scale. So ultimately what that means is the broader CW team has been vetted and they can help support you as you think about Azure-based projects across the full stack. So whether that's, in this case, AVS, as well as any of the ones you also see on the bottom right of the screen from data and AI perspective as well. In addition to that, you also see that there's access to a lot of Azure experts on both sides. So whether that's engineers, architects like Omar, and also licensing specialists and customer success specialists that can support you in the journey. So you really have a full stack of teams and people that are here to support you, including myself on the partner side, and additional offers and programs that you can think about that are accessible to CDW through Microsoft's partnership. If you go to the next slide. Omar. Awesome. So you just heard a bit about the AVS solution, obviously from Omar and our partnership. And you might be wondering, well, how do the two integrate and where do you start on your AVS journey? So that leads us to a few engagements that are available to you. The first one, lowest hanging fruits, being the AVS Express. So this is a free short assessment that you can do, and it's led through the Microsoft assessment team. It will give you details around the Azure consumption estimate and what the TCO looks like to run VMware on Azure. There's also a cloud readiness report that has more information around the timeline that would look like, what the different costs would be as well, and the next steps as you think about moving to AVS. This is a relatively new feature. In the past, we've had the full assessment that would leverage Azure Migrate to look at a full migration. But more recently, this AVS Express tool allows you to just through your RV Tools export, get this detailed information in less than a day. So this is really the easiest way to get that info. Following that, if you're still interested in pursuing a trial or a demo for AVS, there's a free 30-day or 720-hour 3-node trial. And that's nominated through the CDW as well as Microsoft to join that program, where you can actually demo and test out the solution before fully committing to the deployment. And once you reach that stage, there's also dedicated funding that CDW qualifies for to offset some of those costs. Depending on the size, that can be up to $50K US for a deployment. So if you're wondering about next steps, definitely reach out to your CDW account manager to learn more, and they'll be the ones that can support you to nominate for the respective engagement. Next slide, Omar. This is a short, I guess, one pager on what TCO entails. I walked through it earlier verbally, but you will see on the bottom right, it really is a quick process. You have to run the RV tools based on the export of that. It's analyzed through the Microsoft Solution Assessment team, and it will give you a full delivery of results supporting your next steps.
Yeah, I think it's just to add to that. It's not a very intrusive process for us to get to the point of knowing what exactly your current state looks like, and for us to turn around and tell you what your posture will look like in Azure is a fairly short exercise. So we hear from our customers over and over again. This may be a production environment. This may be something they don't want to touch on the go. I just want to leave the idea that this is a very non-intrusive, an agent-less way of looking at your environment.
And
yeah,
also
that's a good point.
And also we do have, Omar, we have something called TCO Express, where customers can provide the RV tool report. We can turn back a complete estimation report within a day. Right?
Yeah, so that
just
would be
to
this
show
one.
it works.
Yeah, so if you hear RV Tools or AVS Express,
Yep.
that's really the low-hanging, quick, intrusive, less, as Omar said, process that
Yep.
gives you that estimate super quickly. I know Omar earlier covered the AVS versus Azure IaaS and PaaS solution. If you are interested in a broader migration, then we have more comprehensive assessments for those too. But this really is sort of the fastest way for you to gauge what that can look like.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, any other questions around the table?
Yeah, also wanted to bring a small clarity, Omar and Joa. When we say 30-day trial, it's not really a trial, it's a production environment. Basically, we label it as a trial because we don't want to run billing for customer, right? Once customer
Sure.
decides to move forward, the trial cluster will become production cluster because that is the real hardware, real software customers will be using for first 30 days to run the workloads, real workloads, production, no change. So I just wanted to make sure, right? That's a huge investment from Microsoft. 3-node production cluster. We label it as a trial or free for 30 days for customer where they can bring in the workloads, they can run, they can have hands-on learning with NSX, HCX. Once they feel comfortable, they can move forward with converting that to production.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not a testing hardware or development piece. Now, it's a real production hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
I
can think
one
of it
the-
as a production trial. I think
Yeah.
Kelly mentioned that in the chat.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, Omar?
No, that's I think that's pretty good. But the only point I was going to mention was before this call started, we were just talking about how we have seen the number of deployment and we were hearing from Microsoft where how the number of deployments for AVS have gone up significantly over the last few months, especially. And that's truly based off of how good Microsoft tooling has become, how good our execution has become, and how important it is for customers to act upon this offer once they've kind of done their TCO and cost benefit analysis. So I will certainly, if there's no questions from my end, I'll just leave that in the back. Think about the value proposition, and there's really that first step of looking at the art of possible. Reach out to your account rep, myself, or anybody on the call over here. Would love to have that discussion as you ponder what next for VMware happens for you. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, this is for customers who are in the call. Please feel free to ask any questions you have on anything about AVS, networking, pricing, how the migration works, how we help you enable, set this up in few hours. Any type of questions, right? We are here to help you. Just watching the chat window to see if there are any questions. Okay. Yep. Cool.
Unless the team answered all of your questions and you're eagerly messaging your CW account manager asking for an AVS Express, which is okay too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, once we have your RB tool reports, we just need few hours to get the estimation and your complete AVS roadmap, in few hours. Please let us know how we can engage CDW rep, and we'll work together behind the scene with CDW to get this done for you guys.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Joao, and everybody else who made the call happen.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time. I'll disconnect.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Really
Thanks,
appreciate that.
everyone.
It was informative. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.